All right, so welcome to our coding deep dive. Maybe a little abbreviated today since we were chatting before this started. I'm just gonna say line sheet, basically, I guess. Let's see. Let's go through some outstanding PRs. So I have one. And that's not the only.
Not sure where we'll get on that one, but
You had some draft PRs, Bryce, right?
Somewhat, yes.
Didn't you have a draft PR that you had opened? But I don't know if I understood this for sure. New.
I just sent a link in the chat that does all PRs on the Suffolk work, which I use to
I
evaluate.
did not know that existed. That's a good shortcut.
Yeah,
Is it a search you have to type in?
It's a search you have to type in. Like if you click on the pull requests button at the top, it brings you to the page that has like author and your username. You just change that to org Suffolk Lit Lab, and it gets you all those.
Perfect. All right. Well, we have a lot of PRs that are open.
Yeah.
Things. Okay. This is good to know. So let's see. These are mostly in draft. We have one that's approved. Format from Black. That one we already have on there. Draft. Film stuff. Reminder one we keep coming back to.
Yeah.
Waiting on this one still. And I don't think it's worried about these ones from 2019. Okay. So that's it for PRs, I guess.
Yeah, the draft ones, or at least the draft ones. I was going to test the interview draft ones, but the form fixture draft one needs David to update the tools endpoint or whatever.
Okay. His endpoint needs to change for us to use it.
Yeah, and I think we've chatted about what needs to change, and I don't know if he's just gotten to it yet. So,
is it that we want to try to push forward before LitCon? Because it's like a performance thing.
It's the thing that lets us not use the large model, essentially,
locally.
Yeah, I think it still uses the medium, and the medium might put extra memory pressure on things, but so we can free up other memory pressure for stuff, but I don't know.
I'm going to say he probably won't get to it.
Yeah.
This week. What does it do? It does the field grouping. What else?
Well, so he already does he has the endpoint, and it technically will work, but it takes 60 seconds to rename fields in a form, and that will time out. That will just time out for if other multiple people are doing it, it will time out all of them essentially. Okay. And so there was a change that it does it in bulk, that would take a lot less time. But I don't think, but he just hasn't changed that yet. So
because you can rename all of the fields basically without having to reload the model every time for one field by field.
it's not about reloading the model. It's about the fact of without the changes that David needs to make, we have to make an individual API call to vectorize like this set of words. And we have to make a call for each time we do that, which is essentially sometimes 2 or 3 times per,
Okay.
or not yet, like per field. And so we need to be able, essentially we need to be able to do it for just all the fields on the page or in the PDF, vectorize each one of these individually. He just hasn't done that yet. So
Is that already happening with Rate My PDF? That endpoint? Because I noticed it seemed to have gotten a bit slower recently. I wasn't sure.
I haven't touched Rate My PDF in weeks. So
no, it's not using his new endpoint yet. Rate My PDF. Okay.
it will start to once we push. That's why it's in draft, because it's like I wasn't going to push something that was unusably slow. So
got it. Okay. I think that the review screen stuff is ready to merge. I know I got it in like late afternoon on Friday.
yeah, I just hadn't had a chance to see it yet.
Michelle, feel free to give your thoughts too. We're just really trying to push through like a pretty basic version of this for now. I can think of a lot of nice things I would add.
Did you link it on the
It's linked to in the notes for today. Yeah.
Okay.
So basically it's just an edit screen for the Weaver that can do as many things as the Weaver can do now, which once you put it all on one edit page, you're like, oh, it'd be nice if it could do more things, but it's what we can do now and just in an easier to access format. So I probably won't make a lot of changes to it unless something's broken, but not for missing features and not for like appearance stuff.
It does look like you might need to update one of the tests.
No, I don't.
Oh,
That's
okay.
last one's test passing. I had renamed a variable and then I did a merge to main, and that first the tests weren't running because of some timeout. So I was like, maybe something's broken. Let me merge to main, and then actually broke it in a completely different way. But that's all working now.
Okay.
It's not actually, I'm feeling lucky. This is the review screen.
Okay.
But we should probably do a review. I'm feeling lucky. I guess we kind of figured out we need to do that. I don't know. Anything we need to think about for performance stuff there with changes to form fixer, Bryce?
The draft form fixer stuff that is there. That's like the only one. There's not a ton else that we can.
For now, it'll work the old way, which might use a lot of memory. Is that basically what it is? We could pre-do it, is what we figured out too. We had to.
I thought we had landed on pre-doing it for the conference. Yeah. And David said he would probably just he could just pre-do this set of forms that we'll label like early this week.
Okay, we just got to queue that up. I'm thinking. All right. I've been working on questions to go along with the name change forms, basically just looking at the existing name change forms, and those will be ready. So I guess we'll have 2 more PRs soon, one for these new fields that are in the Weaver, that are in assembly line, and I added new attributes to AL individual. And then additionally, we'll need to make sure the Weaver can handle those new fields. So maybe I'll try to get those PRs in today. those are relatively small. And we actually have to have some reasonable subset of fields labeled, the forms labeled, I guess, for it to make sense.
Mhm.
Starting to wonder if this is the best idea or not, but we'll see. I'm doing a dry run on Thursday. Bryce, you saw that. Did I email you that question about that? Okay.
Yeah, I'll be there.
All right. So between today and Thursday, we should try to label a bunch of forms so we know that we'll actually have enough to make this make sense as our project. And we could have walk people through it manually without doing the I'm feeling lucky button. I'm not sure how much the I'm feeling lucky button will save people.
I don't. We could try it.
Yeah, I guess that's what we're going to try to figure out before Thursday. But I'm doing a dry run on Thursday, so I have to actually have tested it before that to make sure it makes sense.
Do we want to put a to-do items to do to label the forms, or I mean, I never remember anything without a to-do item, but I might not have time.
I mean,
anyway, so maybe
it is the one thing I'm doing this week, so
Oh, okay, there we go.
I will make sure it gets done, and I'll try and make sure it gets done before like Wednesday and stuff.
And I feel like there's value in that because let's say no one does it at the conference. I don't think will be true. I think we'll be able to get people to try it out, participate in some way. If no one does it, we were like, well, we have to do it all. I feel like we could figure out a way to script more of it to be automated.
If it were standardized.
Yeah, we've gone through the work of standardizing the PDFs. We could do the thing that we're going to ask people to do manually by calling a script to iterate over the PDFs maybe. And then we'll have a collection of, hey, do you need to do a name change form? What state are you in? Here's the form. Feels like there's a value there. Just thinking through contingencies.
Yeah.
Okay. Date validation, that's really the same as we moved it there. Okay. Because you had didn't you have another one for it? Either way. Anything you want to talk about there about the date validation stuff?
I mean, Bryce made some good comments about me adding changing the names of some of the files and making a include file. You can just include. But the main thing is that there is the pre-existing bug that we talked about delaying the merging until we assessed that, I think, in the simpler previous version and properly nail down what's going on. And
so if a date input isn't filled in, and then I'm guessing the missing word there is you click the next button.
Right?
I'm reading what I wrote down. Yeah, I think
it's a required field, maybe, or maybe it wasn't a required field. I don't know.
No, yeah, that's if it wasn't a required field, and you try to continue the required part. Normally, would err on screen for the JavaScript and say, "Oh, you have to enter something," but it doesn't if it's not required, and so it will try to move forward, but it will just JavaScript stuff will break somehow. I was not super certain how
it wouldn't re-render the date fields. There would just be input fields, like regular input fields.
It would do that because there was a JavaScript error on the page that, from what I could tell, had to do with trying to run validation on that date.
We didn't check the console, I don't think, that time.
I checked the console a lot when I
Oh,
was.
really?
I'm pretty sure we checked it. Yeah, we couldn't
Oh,
figure it
okay.
out, but we checked it.
Oh, I'll have to rewatch the video. So we need to troubleshoot that, but it might not be this week because I'm gonna try and, if I can get the presentation stuff done this for the weeks out, then I will probably move on to labeling stuff because that's what we are trying to do right now.
So 3-part state. And I
Which
believe
I wanna call it split date because it's shorter.
I don't think we would.
Yeah,
For
rename stuff, but
so it's show. I think it's from show hidden fields.
this
That's
one's
where
not
we made it
required. Would that
happen,
work?
but
Well,
don't
I guess
know.
we'll try.
We made it work with show hidden with the hidden ones. So
Is it like you have to answer it and then unanswer it or something?
I don't think it was partial.
I think it had to be partially.
It's
for
also
us.
the thing. It was the thing. The thing was that it was much. I do remember it was like it was much easier to trigger when you were doing on the new branch and not like on the existing code.
But it was an
we
existing.
have a video. We have like I haven't given it to Bryce yet, so it's not uploaded, but we have the video from the deep dive. We can try and find.
Okay. Yeah, that's right. I was just
It's a bit
Right.
more complex to trigger.
Well, if it seems like the current branch is a little bit safer, I mean, obviously we know there's good reasons to have this new feature. It'll be a lot more flexible, but I think you're right to just defer it until we can figure out how to fix the bug.
It might be an upstream thing. Is part of what we wondered last time.
Am I basically following the same steps, but you were able to get a trigger in one way before, but it was more reliably triggering with the new branch? Or am I not doing the thing that would trigger it?
No, it's not like it's not a like random. It's not probabilistic. It's reliable when you can do it. I think it's just a matter of what the exact setup was, and I'm mostly just haven't touched this in 2 weeks, and so I'm trying to read all the stuff that we were writing down at the time.
Yeah, I was going to go through and try and document a bit better. Oh, just selecting the same thing won't change anything. Like it wouldn't have changed anything anyway. Just what you did in the high school graduation though. I do remember you had like, I think you had the month and the day, but not the year. But I was going to go through and try and like pin down the exact inputs.
It says it's blank, but are all the fields meant to be blank? Do you have to like answer it and then erase something?
It wasn't something as difficult as that. It may have been something more like that for the existing code. The thing is, I don't remember the existing code setup very well. I remember the new code setup, which was as simple as I don't know. I don't remember if it was. It was either the show hidden fields just without a default and required.
If we want, I have it set up on my local and I could share. I don't remember how to do it, but you might be able to.
It's probably not. I don't want to like waste everyone's time and just iterate on how to do it. If you have the video, that would be very useful. Otherwise, I can go and try and like recreate it. This is my fault for not writing it down enough.
Well, let's not worry about it this week, given that there's not an emergency to get it done, and everyone has other LitCons.
Yeah, and mostly I wasn't super concerned. Like I don't think it was not easy to recreate on the existing code. So it's not like there's a bug in existing code. It's just holding back this PR. So.
Okay. So
I got it. I replicated it. So, but we don't.
Oh, nice.
On this screen, Michelle?
No, on my own.
Okay.
which I can share if you want.
That could be useful if we share it, just write it down.
Yeah, sure. Write it down this time.
Okay. But I can also watch the video and write it down. But
It's all right. Since you have it ready, well, might as well just see it.
okay. Let me actually do, well, whatever, I'll refresh. But this is what it looks like when it's broken, just FYI. So basically, showed hidden fields. I did something here and I submitted. Then I did this. And then I submitted again. I don't know if that's exactly what you have to do to replicate it, but that's what worked for me. So
I think it may have been.
replicate it.
Yeah, I don't remember if the first submit was needed, but I do think it's the idea of just if the only error on the page is the not required one and it's not filled in all the way, where it's like filled in partially. Okay.
Yeah, I think it might have. The thing I wanted to check is if you had to trigger some error on the page before it would cause that kind of problem. Anyway, that's what I want to check out when I get a chance. So is there anything else we need to show?
So I did not capture that. So if you want to write down those steps now that we've done it, that would be good to add to the.
I'm adding it to the thing that I thought was going to be detailed enough to recreate. It was not. So.
Yeah. Okay. You tell me when to unshare and I will.
You can unshare.
Okay.
I think. Sorry, I guess I'm talking for you, Bryce. But
You're muted, but
I was not sharing. Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay. So I guess we've covered those for now. The only other stuff we have is Kiln. Is this a name question, Michelle? The first item number one?
I mean, one of the names. No, I just didn't know whether to call it server or local in this thing to make it clear. I still don't know if the package name should be server or local.
I was gonna say you were calling it AL Kiln the playground, right?
Oh, playground. I think that's good.
Like I liked that name. I didn't realize you were trying to rename it until you mentioned it this morning.
Should it just be Ale Kiln Playground or Ale Kiln in the playground?
I don't think that matters too much. I don't think it's a thing people will be typing out, really. So
is it a separate NPM package? Is that part of the issue?
It's not, and it's a Docassemble package.
Yeah.
There wasn't a Docassemble package for Kiln before.
Yeah, but we could talk about. I don't necessarily think it's necessary.
Well, maybe just call it AL Kiln. Or is that confusing if it has the same name and one's for Docassemble?
Well, yeah, that's what I'm concerned about. If they find the AL Kiln link and they think that's what they need to install, and it does have a Docassemble package in it, which it does, and then they won't be able to install it on the server because it doesn't start. It's a whole thing.
Okay.
So I want to make sure that it's clear and separate, but maybe having Docassemble at the start is clear enough. I don't know.
Maybe AL Kiln Playground, if you're worried about length.
Yeah.
I like in the playground too.
In the playground?
Because it clarifies that it's not a playground for experimenting with AL Kiln.
That's true.
Okay,
so maybe I'll keep it AL Kiln in the playground. But I was just going to go over I was just going to demo the test running and see if there were any major missing features. And I was gonna.
And that's the one you're gonna demo.
I was gonna talk about the changes we need to make to version 5. Yeah, we don't have to do it, especially since my time is a bit short.
Oh, I think that's okay.
But if y'all are into it, then we will do it. But I'm not requiring it. Might just, tell people to try it out and see how it goes. Because it needs to be tried out on a server that's not my local server anyway.
That's right. I'd be willing to try it out.
Okay. So it's ready for trying out if you want to try it out. I
Mia was going to try to reach out to you to learn more about testing, by the way.
Oh,
Michelle.
sure.
So if you want someone else new.
She did.
Oh, she did already. Okay.
Yeah. It actually doesn't take any setup because it doesn't set it up in GitHub at all.
Okay. Well, it might be a good thing for her to learn. Although I think she probably will also want to learn how to do it with GitHub. So have it be an automated step.
That's what I thought she wanted to focus on. I did Elkiln in a playground, so I might still change it. I prefer Elkiln in the playground, and it's not going to be that big a deal to change it. And the commits are all a mess. It's not like the commit history. I mean, it might be useful to someone, but
I think it's okay to forgo the future somebody who might want to see the development history of it. If everything's working as first really working version.
Yeah.
I think that's okay.
I mean, it's probably
you can
broken
decide
in some way. So, but
do you want to try to follow Pascal case for the whole thing too?
Maybe. Did I not?
Made Elkiln all lowercase.
Oh, that's just because that's how it's actually, I'll put the right link in.
Okay. It's actually not named that on GitHub, but GitHub just doesn't care about case.
Yeah.
Got it.
That's all.
All right.
Okay.
I had the next two. They're not that important, but I can go through in order anyway. So I was just looking at some of the feedback we've gotten on our Rate My PDF tool. And I do think we really we'll get a lot of benefit out of improving the appearance. We're telling people we're going to help you build better forms. So people need to have some trust in our ability to do nice quality web pages. So I think it was fine until we added all this extra text. Now it looks really wonky at the current design.
Yes.
And I'm not going to touch it because we just established that we don't want to break things right before Wednesday. I
mean, we could just do CSS before Wednesday.
No, deploying it can't be an issue though.
Yeah, it's kind of tricky to deploy. Someone that I had done some work with before sent me this and said it was a tool they just had built, which actually I like the simple layout of it. Clear action item, download. The explanation stuff is in a better place on their page.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily want to steal their exact look and feel, but it got me thinking, it's like, you know what? We're building a static page from scratch. I've seen these people who are building Bootstrap templates and give you a starting point for building your site. And it seems like it could be a good fit for what we're trying to do. But I was just trying to do a little research to figure out how long do I do deep dive into finding other people's templates versus figuring out how to create it from scratch myself. And then I was like, maybe ChatGPT can do it for me. And this is what I was getting with ChatGPT. It was, you can see all my goofy questions that I've asked in the past there, but that's okay. It just gets this far and then it ends in the middle of an element with GPT-4. So it didn't do a very good job.
No.
I could switch to probably one of the faster models and it might finish rendering, but I didn't try that yet. And then I just Googled around Bootstrap landing page template, upload file. I think that's key because that's what I want to get some ideas of people who have designed a landing page, which specifically has the call to action of uploading something. I found a lot of subscription services that you could do. I'm just curious, maybe Michelle, you've done the most web design stuff of anybody on our team, probably.
Hmm.
Do you have any ideas? Is this a silly idea? Should we just try to do it from scratch? I feel like anytime that I do, I miss little details that give it a polished look and feel, right? Like
Yes.
I actually kind of feel like
it's
that
gonna be a
happened with
pain.
our Court Forms Online page. We had this really nice layout that was given to us, and this is just not quite as polished as that.
Hmm.
Things are like a little bit more squared. It's just like you can spend so much time trying to tweak all those things.
Yeah, I mean, that's what it would be. It would be a lot of tweaking. If we build it from scratch. We might be able to copy the basic HTML of the current page, and because Bootstrap has like some good
What do you
like
mean, this
classes
page
there,
on the left?
or that page on the left. But I mean, even our page, like it'll have containers and stuff that we wouldn't have thought of containing.
This is a page I built from scratch.
Oh, okay. Well, one of the Docassemble pages. Especially if we wanted to keep a consistent style. But
Doesn't have to look like
I think the
Docassemble at all.
idea is, I was going to say everything you're saying, Quentin, is like not what the Docassemble approach of
Okay.
just like it looks, it works, it's good enough sort of thing.
I'm just saying that it would give us consistent containers and classes that we wouldn't have to build ourselves, that we would then be able to style with CSS and add to more easily. That's all. I'm not saying that we would keep the look and feel.
Yeah,
But
okay.
but
I mean,
like, there's a lot on the left. There's a lot of containers and a lot of, hierarchy going on. It's it's pretty simple, but it does take a bunch of tweaking. That's all. Bootstrap does make it easier. So if we found a good Bootstrap theme, we can, we can do some of this with less work. But
yeah, I guess I'm basically just
wouldn't
looking for a
be-
design
it wouldn't be
sheet.
super fast.
And it'd be nice to be able to get a draft of. I read about people using AI tools, generative AI, to build draft web pages. I'm just not sure which part they're most successful with it right now. You get a lot of spammy results when you just Google.
Yeah. I don't know of one. It supposedly ChatGPT also lets you draw a website and then gives you the HTML, but you're having trouble just getting it to show
It's
you
not even doing the
HTML.
HTML.
So I don't know.
It does not. ChatGPT 4 does not have that feature, but I believe if you have the preview version of the API, you might be able to do that.
Sure, you might be able to ask it just to give you the body, and you might get a bit more code.
Let's see. I mean, it's not too far for giving me what I need, to be honest.
I mean,
but-
you're only getting to the nav bar, so.
Yeah.
Well, like, what's it? Well, like, so it's all, I was about to, like, all of this is, what's the, like, if we're thinking this is mostly going to be in the CSS sort of level stuff, right?
Well, you need the containers first. And actually, I did ask it to give me the CSS too. So presumably, I have actually gotten it to give me working CSS for things before, but I've noticed that GPT-4 seems to just run out of tokens at some point or something. I don't know what that's the right description for it.
Because there was
It just breaks off in the middle.
Response.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I keep paying for ChatGPT. Retry my request. But what were you? I felt like you were going to have a bigger picture question there, Bryce. Would you want to say?
I mean, no, it was just like that's the I guess the containers are kind of useful, but I felt like mostly the CSS and what like classes it's using on each of the containers would be the directly applicable thing that you could get from the first part. I don't know.
You could also exclude the header, right? If it's given you enough of the header, you could try just give me the header and just give me the rest of the.
I mean, the other thing is, it makes me realize like how nice it would be to have access to a designer as part of our team. Because really, I'm
Yes.
saying, I don't have a designer. Can someone come up with some ideas that I can react to? And can someone with the right level of front end experience build that into a working website?
Yeah.
Which are neither of those are things that we really, other exception of you, Michelle, have been like doing on our team. So
Mm.
see how far I
Is there a limit on the number of tokens? Because it does use a lot of tokens to make HTML.
Well, I think the tokens have to do with your input more than the output,
Okay.
right? There's a limit. And I don't know if I've run into that. I think it's just a little buggy because it's new. That's a good idea to just ask it for the body.
Hmm.
It is very painful when you're like, yes, let me give you the HTML. And it's like, here's 10 lines of boilerplate HTML before it gets to the part that actually you care about. Interesting. Okay.
Looks
It
like
still
it's
did not
fine.
finish the navigation. Got a little further this time.
Yeah, but you could ask it for not the navigation.
Oh, let me show you something else. So by the way, a way to get around the limited number of Dolly tokens is to use Bing Image Creator, which just uses Dolly.
Hmm.
Right. I think this prompt will make me join, but I'm sharing. Feel free to stop me if this is not what anyone.
It's fascinating.
This takes a while.
How's ChatGPT doing?
So this is interesting. I've been using it on my phone, and it shows you this is all still like so testy because when you ask it to build something for you on your phone, it only shows you the same icon repeated 4 times. So this is the first time I've seen the variations on some of these designs.
Oh.
Is it still working? I can't stop it from doing what I was doing. Oh, my great. That's
Okay.
interesting.
I think I gotta go.
Yeah, that's fair. But just if you take a look, like this is interesting. It gives you
Yes.
an image, but you can't turn that into anything really that I can see. There's no easy way to get from its design. Oh, there's no free lunch anyway.
I feel like the concrete thing here is honestly, I am perfectly okay with stealing the design, or at least starting off heavily inspired from their design, and then tweaking things as we go. Of the other, was it PDF chatbot?
Yeah, ask your PDF.
Interesting.
Well, I mean, this was in the context of them trying to solicit business, so I feel kind of bad, like saying, "Yeah, no, I'm not going to send you any business, and I'm going to be inspired by your design." But actually, this is interesting. Now that I can see all of the variations, I kind of like this one. What were you saying, Bryce?
No, nothing. I mean, that one is.
I like this one with the machine.
Yeah.
Processing stuff. I wonder if, okay. I wonder if you can get an SVG. Yeah. I was curious to know.
Incredible that this still works.
And this, I'm using GPT 3.5. I feel like that actually. Something tells me this is a pretty crappy logo.
Yeah, probably. It did create SVG code for me, though. That's not very much the logo. Well, I'm very curious to see how people start using this. Have you heard of, since we're on this topic, Microsoft Designer? I'm just not sure. Don't think so yet.
How it's going to end up working. It looks like some kind of a Canva alternative, so it may not end up being a very good fit. There's a wait list for it I signed up for.
Yeah.
Because it feels like all these tools are really close to doing what we need. It's not quite working, right? Like that example image from Bing Image Creator, which just has nonsense. It's a picture and you're like, oh, okay, you draw 3 containers, you have 3 cards underneath the big container and you have the font this size. Like that would be not hard to create. And you could give the text prompt to do that to GPT 3.5 and it would probably work, but you have to translate the image to text first.
Yeah.
It would make more sense for those 2 tools to work together, to me.
Yeah, that's fair.
But, and the other thing is, I like the DALL-E only creates PNG files, doesn't create SVGs, which
yeah, there would not be a good way for any sort of like image recognition stuff to do SVGs just the way they're made.
A good point. You're right. Maybe it would need to be like start by generating the PNG and then have a smarter rasterization tool that or vectorization tool that uses AI in some way.
Okay.
Maybe you're right. Maybe it's just not the right model to train on. I mean, there's no reason it couldn't generate SVG. It's just, you're right. It doesn't correspond to how DALL-E does it. That makes sense. It's like pixel based, right? It's basically what's the next pixel.
Yes, yeah, very strongly pixel and what's the, not transformer, but convolution based, where you have to be able to look at the exact like neighboring pixels and stuff.
We didn't really end up resolving this, except I guess it's just the old-fashioned way of finding examples that inspire you and then trying to reproduce it by making up your own content. Maybe we could get a little bit
Well, I mean,
closer.
I think if we started, I think starting with like just like what we want from it, which I think that's honestly fine to, if like just like, okay, if we fix like start by fixing the like super narrow 80 pixel thing, which honestly does look bad enough that like we should consider fixing that. I would consider trying to fix it, and I would work hard to make sure it is up and still working before Wednesday, if we wanted to. And then like next, okay, let's just like move the text to the bottom and split it up into those into like cards. Like we have Bootstrap cards; those are still there and working. And just like I think split it like, well, I don't know if it needs a full redesign as much as it just needs like, okay, do we have a general sense of like the rough outline of what we want to move towards, which like I think you're right, making the upload call to action really big might work. I think that was sort of like what we had initially. It wasn't big, but it was like the only thing on the screen. And so if we just move towards making that a little bit bigger and then having all the explanation below in cards, I think that'd be great. And that'd be like just the next steps we can do. And then we can look at polishing off like all of the other stuff sort of as we go.
Yeah, and it seems like Bootstrap 3.5 or GPT 3.5 is actually better at doing this.
Mm-hmm.
Four probably just has some kind of limit that's just being overused or something like that. Yeah, so maybe this actually is kind of helpful. I mean, it would take me quite a while to write all that by hand and to make sure I'm doing the right names for everything. We just put an H1 on there. Okay, that's fine. One is making fun of me for saying please to generative AI. I guess this is where Copilot might be better. So hard to know. I'm just like feeling around in the dark for all these AI tools and saying, could I use them? Some of them have already been helpful, but for coding, I haven't quite figured out which ones are best.
I'm honestly just not.
What's that?
I'm just not like super curious about them yet, for probably the reasons that I think you're running into, of just like I have a feeling that I know I'd have to like do a whole bunch of other stuff, and then I see people like, oh, I asked it to do all these things for me, and then they'll sometimes link to the whole transcript, and it's like them asking it a bunch of different questions a bunch of different ways, and it's just not what I'm interested in doing. Like I get absolutely stuck when it's like, oh, we have to ask it to describe it. Like if it thinks it's a court form, and then half the time we give it the text and it's like, oh, this isn't a court form. Abort this now. And it's normal text and I don't know how else to phrase it. Like, I don't know.
They're definitely still a lot of work to use. Yes. which is fair. It's not like internet search engines replaced librarians, right? Or researchers. It's another tool they can use. And this is, I guess, like another interface to the documentation. Sometimes
Pretty much.
you're better off
That's
reading documentation than trying a bunch of tutorials or something.
Yeah.
Let's see, what else was on my list? The other thing was, I'm feeling lucky. Do you want me to try to work on that too? Even though it will be like the slower version for now. We did say we were going to pre-generate those links. It feels like I'm feeling lucky won't interfere with taking that approach later. Or what do you think? I'll do the other two PRs today too. So
if you want to, I think, yeah, the things to focus on, I think is probably better is just all the name change stuff.
Yeah. Okay. We'll see.
It's like really slow.
Okay.
Like, it's one of those, like, I'm convinced it's going to time out on, and even if we could get it so it didn't time out on like one person, it would likely time out when like the 4 people are using it, sort of thing. So I'm just not convinced it will be worth it.
Okay.
Without the extra tool stuff, or just taking the memory hit, which like the Docacon instance probably could. And so if you wanted to just try it with that and on the current form fixer, I think that would probably work fine.
You think it's fast enough with the current form fixer to handle?
It's not as fast enough, but the
30.
the Docacon version, the Docacon instance, you gave it like 24 gigabytes or something, right?
Well,
like
16 gigs, but yeah.
16, yeah. You gave it a lot more than the 8 that is currently there. And I think I did like back of the envelope stuff, and even with medium, like even with the medium size spacey stuff, eventually all of the background like somehow all of the background copies of like Docassemble, the Celery stuff, like the Celery processes, each end up with their own copy, it looks like, because they suddenly each take up like 700 megabytes each. And there's like 4 or 5 of those, I think. And so all that said, like I did rough back the envelope calculations, and it was like, oh, it's still like eventually the whole server will take an extra 3 gigabytes of memory if we're trying to load the medium, and if we're trying to load the large, it's more like 8 or 9, which is an issue when you're running on 4 or sometimes even 8 gigabytes of memory. But 16, like it won't affect it. So if you just wanted to use large on the LitCon instance, that would probably be fine, and run it locally, and that would all be good.
Even for like 40 or so people, 30 or 40 people.
Well, because it's not using.
It's not using.
I think that was the thing that I hadn't noticed before. Where I had done all this was that there's only one USG process that Docassemble uses, which is kind of weird. I think most people use more than one USG process, but Jonathan probably ran into the same problem because all of the stuff that Docassemble loads takes up a decent amount as well. And Docassemble also does a whole bunch of weird shared process stuff sometimes. All that to say, there's only one USWGI process that Docassemble has. There are a lot of Celery background processes, and that was the thing that, like, we can get it to load in one process and it works fine, but when you put it on Docassemble, it'll start loading a lot more of extra copies and run out of memory.
But it's not tied necessarily to the number of people using it.
It's not tied. Yeah, it's not tied to the number of
people.
At least.
Okay.
Yes. No. Yeah. It's tied to like the number of people who start using it, but after each process has each like background process has loaded its own copy or whatever, it doesn't anymore. From what I can tell, it's not like there shouldn't be a difference between like 4 people using it and like 40. The memory usage will still be the same for the like loading the models and everything. So.
All right. Yeah. Then priority-wise, it seems like.
Yeah, I still think priority-wise would be all the other stuff that we're actually doing for the name change stuff would be better, and just pre-doing a lot of the other stuff.
Yeah.
Maybe
Okay.
we can convince David to just give us access to the tools, the whatever. Like I think he mentioned he uses Python anywhere, and it's like, cool, that's fine. Can we also push to it? Slash, like, where's the code for that? Would be maybe useful if we could just get it off his hands. But
Well,
yeah.
I think we could probably just do it. I'm sure it's